Hi, you guys. Thanks for joining us at the Hardback Life. Britt is here, even though you're not going to see her on video. She's having technical difficulties, but she's here vocally. So you're just going to have to stare at her little picture if you're watching us on YouTube or on the Spotify video. But if you're just listening to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, it's not going to make a difference for you. So, all right, Britt, hi.
Hey, how's everything been going? Good.
It's going good. It's going good. I'm up to a reading 26 books so far this year. So that's reading books and listening to an audiobook. So I'm at 26, my
I
number.
I need to count to see where I'm at. Obviously, I've been listening and reading a lot more since I've been out due to my surgery,
Yeah.
and recovering still. So it's been a lot more than normal, that's for sure.
But it's
Actually,
probably
just
refreshing, right?
finished. No, it is. I mean, I finished the latest Sarah J. Maas, the Crescent City
Oh,
book
okay.
series. I just finished that one last night. Um, so I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to read right now. I'm just kind of, I still have until June until I go back to work.
Well, I have suggestions that I will totally give you. Um, like later. But I
Yeah,
know
no. Send me a list later.
I will. I'll send you pictures too. But I know for the purpose of this episode, we are going to talk about Powerless. Yes. So I read this back in January. And I know you just finished it, so it's probably way more fresh on your mind than it is on mine. But I loved this book. I seriously could not put it down. It was so good.
Yeah,
um,
no, it was. I know that there was like a ton of people who had really mixed feelings about it because they were trying to say that it was very they thought the plot was borrowed heavily on the dystopian narrative, like Hunger Games and everything. But
yeah,
I don't think it's like, no, it's not the same. You could say that about any book. You
yeah.
Because essentially, when you have a genre or like a theme that you're going with, just because it is similar or the I don't want to say it's the same or the idea is the same, but I mean, you could say that just about any romance book or fantasy book or shifter book or anything. You
Yeah,
could say that about
any fae
anything.
romance, yeah, fae romance, shifter romance, they all have like a underlining commonality.
Yeah, and then it's just like, but it wasn't the same. You didn't have Hunger Games was very a little quite different.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know.
Well,
I liked it. I liked it too.
I mean, it had a nice mix of quite a few books that I know that you and I have read. So I've read The Hunger Games. I love The Hunger Games. Thought it was an amazing book series. Love the movies. The adaptations obviously were not exact to the book, but I thought they were decent enough compared to like other adaptations. I thought it wasn't that bad, right? Wasn't that far off. I do
Yeah,
see like similar elements like with the trials, right? But besides the trials, like that's it. That's the only thing like of commonality.
yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, you could sit here and say, "Oh, I'm going to pull this part of A Court of Thorns and Roses," and say, "Oh, it's because it's this. Let's get rid of and humans that have no power and let's alienate them." You could sit there and pull that same thing on that book and say, well, there's a commonality there. Well, but
Exactly.
overall, I mean, they all develop into their own stories.
Oh yeah. So I thought it was great. I've never read a Lauren Roberts book. I can't recall if this is her first book or not. I don't think so. I think she's written other books, but I ordered it, number one, it was a beautiful cover, right? But it popped up on Amazon on my recommended list of what I might like. So I was like, okay, I'll give this a shot. I ordered it, got it, I read it, fell in love with the book, love the story, right? I would honestly give this a 5 out of 5 for me. And you know my rating scale. 5 out of 5 means I'll buy a special edition if there is one, and I'm going to reread the story. Versus a 4 out of 5 is I'll reread the story, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to spend any more money, right? Like 5 out of 5 is like, I really, really love the story and I want every special edition there is because I love it, right? It's like Fourth Wing. I love Fourth Wing. And so I have the
Mm-hmm.
special editions. So same with this one. If a special edition ever comes out, I will totally get it. I absolutely loved it. I loved the dynamic between the characters. And I don't want to go into too many spoilers because I know we like to do like two-part episodes. We don't spoil it for those who haven't read the book. So this is still the part one where we're discussing how we liked it. So I give it a solid 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was excellently executed. It did have elements of other book series that I love, but it was like little
Well, I think she
sprinkles.
did also a really good job of world building, right? So
Oh
she
yeah.
was able to be detailed and create this setting, and that way you're you know able to kind of get an idea of what the kingdom of Gilead and what that society was really about, and how there was a divide between ordinary and elite. So it was, and she built more complex characters, whereas some books you're just going to get introduce character A, B, and C. Here's a small snippet of it. I'm going to throw this fluff in here, and I'm done.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of like, with the last book that you and I talked about, which I believe was To Kill a Shadow, like the world building just wasn't there in that much detail and that much depth. It was more just like
Mm-hmm.
in the story. This one, yeah, she actually like she painted a beautiful picture of the world. Like you can envision the town, you can envision these characters like so detailed in my mind at least.
Well, even
I could
down to the
picture it.
dressmaking.
Oh yeah. I mean, the one scene like with the food in the pocket and everything, and I can like really picture it in my mind. And like, okay, this is the sensation I would have. Like Lauren's really great about that, like really explaining things in details without being so boring. Because let's be honest, like I love Stephen King books, but oh my gosh, it takes that man forever to get to the damn point, and he will like literally give every little minute detail. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Can we stop repeating?
Yeah.
Um,
And the thing is like she created this theme of like power and identity. So it's power, survival, like the challenges without that. And if you didn't have this quote unquote power, then how does that equate to your own person and
yeah,
strength? And like it's like this whole emphasis on her own journey from her because of what happened to her in her
yeah,
childhood to her present, and then how that's kind of cycling forward in the future.
yeah. Well, yeah, it's basically the elites versus the non-elites kind of type of mentality.
It's essentially a purging.
Oh, exactly.
It's
Exactly.
which is what they say. It's a purging.
Yeah,
Um, but
it goes beyond,
it's
I was gonna say it goes beyond like segregation, right? Like this, it's like almost like the witch hunters. Like,
genocidal.
yes, exactly. Like, oh, I'm accusing you of being a witch, then I'm gonna kill you. But in this world, it's like if you don't have powers, they want to get rid of you because they think you're going to bring like an illness upon them, And so it's the ultimate discrimination, ever. And yeah, we'll go into that in more detail in part two. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and I
it's
think
purging.
it was good, and I like the fact that she did have some unexpected twists within it.
Yeah.
Especially toward the end. I really wasn't wanting it to necessarily go that route at the end because I liked the relationships that were being built. But
Yeah.
I guess in the back of your mind, you knew it was kind of coming,
Well,
but
yeah, and I
in a
mean
way
it's a
you didn't.
saga. Well, and it's a saga, so you don't want to put everything on the table in the first book,
No,
right? You want to get the readers to come back. And I feel like where she left it was actually a really good part because it makes you want more, but it doesn't piss you off where she left off, if that makes sense. Like I feel
well, you
satisfied.
know that something else is coming.
Exactly. Like I feel satisfied with how this book ended. It's left me wanting more, but it hasn't left me like, oh my God, I need to know now. It's like, okay, I understand where we're going. I see your journey. I see the path you're taking us on, Lauren, and I trust you to get us there. So the one
Yeah.
thing I do want to mention though, before we wrap up this episode is, so this is book one. Okay. Book two comes out in July. This is the novella. Now, I'm pretty sure most of you could see where I'm irritated. That the novella is so much smaller. Like, this is going to look really funky on my shelf because I'm going to put the second book right here. I'm not happy with that. And she's explained why she did this. I still think it's a dumb decision. I'm just going to put that out there. She did this because she didn't want people to get confused and mistake this as book number 2. Nobody's going to get this mistake this for book number 2. All you have to put is, novella. Like, people know what novella means. Like, actual readers know what that means. But this is, I mean, and it's $15. Like, I mean, this is just ridiculous.
No,
Ridiculous.
I didn't even bother with it. But you know how I am though with secondary character books.
Yeah. Well, see,
I
that's why
just don't get into it.
yeah, well, that's why I did one, because there's a secondary character, which we'll go over in our detail episode. So for those who want to know more about this book, we'll go over who this book covers, but it's a secondary character from Powerless. I'm just really upset that it is drastically smaller, because Lauren thinks that we wouldn't know the difference between a novella and book number 2. It literally tells you a powerless story. Like, it's
Yeah.
obviously a connection. This is obviously not book 2. Book 2 is reckless. So
Yeah.
you read Powerless and you like the book and you're looking it up, you will know that this is a novella. It literally tells you on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, everywhere, it is a novella. And it's a story of a side character. So that's the only thing that irritates me. And I hope if she does more novellas, now she's got to keep them the same size, because if she goes big on the rest of the novellas, oh man, am I going to be irritated? I'm
Well, and
going
the
to be
thing is
so
like
irritated.
I really don't want to. I mean, what I'll probably do is just have you only what I want to know out of the novella.
Yeah,
But
I'll
we'll
do
get into that later because that leads into
that.
book 2. And
Yeah.
um, I mean, not book. I'm just
It ties into book 1. So the novella does tie into book 1. So it
and
will.
it will hopefully answer some questions as far as what's going to happen going forward, or why certain things happen,
Yeah.
and what could be going on going forward into book 2.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because there could be another character that's brought up in here that wasn't in the first book that will be in the second book. We don't know. So I'm going to read this. I will let you know if there's a character that pops up in here, or characters that are not in Powerless.
And I'll ask
Yeah.
my questions
Yeah.
about it, and then you could say yes, no, kind of, a little bit, but not really.
Yeah.
But
And then I can always just lend you the novella and you can read it. That way you don't have to go buy it. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see about that. But I don't know if you want to give like a synopsis of what the book is about before we.
yeah, let me do that. All right. All right.
I mean, I could.
Oh, I got it up.
Kind of go over it. Oh, you have it. Okay.
Oh no, I'm pulling it up on my computer, you guys. Okay, so if you have not read the book, which now, by the way, it is on sale on Amazon right now. The hardcover is literally on sale for $10. It is 50% off as of May 23rd. So if you're watching this or listening to this way in the future, it might not be on sale anymore. But as of this moment in time, it is on sale for $10. So here's a synopsis. She is the very thing he spent his whole life hunting. He is the very thing she spent her whole life pretending to be. Only the extraordinary belong in the kingdom of Ilya. The exceptional, the empowered, the elites. The powers these elites have possessed for decades were graciously gifted to them by the plague. Though not all were fortunate enough to both survive the sickness and reap the reward, those born ordinary are just that, ordinary. And when the king decreed that all ordinaries be banished to preserve his elite society, lacking an ability suddenly became a crime, making Peyton Gray a felon by fate and a thief by necessity. Surviving in the slums as an ordinary is no simple task, and Peyton knows this better than most. Having been trained by her father to be keenly observant since she was a child, Peyton poses as a psychic in the crowded city, blending in with the elites as best as she can to stay alive and out of trouble. Easier said than done. When Peyton unsuspectingly saves one of Ilya's princes, she finds herself thrown into the purging trials. The brutal competition exists to showcase the elite's powers, the very thing Peyton lacks. If the trials and the opponents within them don't kill her, the princess she's fighting feelings for certainly will if he discovers that she's completely ordinary. So it's really cool. She's having to basically put on a mask. She's getting that Oscar, you guys. She's getting her Academy Award. She is doing what she needs to do to survive. And if you guys have ever seen the show Psych, that's legit what the girl's doing. Like, she's pretending she's psychic, and parts of it are comical. So I will give Lauren that. Parts of it are comical. There's very serious. There's a sprinkle of romance. Now, I will say there is no smut. Okay, there's no sex scene. I'm not sure if that's going to change in future books, but in my opinion, this is a young adult as of this moment, because there is no sex, spicy things like that. But there is an element of romance in it that I feel is building. So I will just leave it at that. So if you guys have teenagers and they want to read it, I think it is safe for them, unless you want to watch them for the violence, because there is a lot of violence in here. So I would say late teens, for sure, would be, okay to read it.
Yeah, I wouldn't let Rita read it. So
No, she's too young, because the violent aspect is where that to me is like, because there is no sex, there's no inappropriate like that, but the violence, I would definitely say maybe 16 plus, maybe 15. It does have violence. Now, it's not going to be worse than like Grand Theft Auto. So if you're letting your kids play that, then like, I mean, this is harmless for that.
yeah,
But
which
yeah,
my kids are not allowed to do that. So
exactly. So there is violence, there's blood, some gore. It's not the whole book. But definitely be mindful if you are letting your teenagers read that, and that's something you don't want them to be reading. It does have that element in there. So, but with that said, I
yeah,
highly
but
recommend.
overall, it's
Yeah,
not Stephen King graphic.
yeah, I would definitely say it's young adult. Definitely a young adult, just because of the graphic of the violence when it is there. I don't think is suitable for younger teens. I would say older teens and young adults. So, but yeah, so I recommend the book. I can't say enough good things about it. I think it's wonderful. And I think Britt and I are going to roll on and over, and we're going to discuss the book in more insight. So catch us on the next episode to learn more about the details. If you have read it and you want to see our thoughts, feelings, and what we thought about it into more. So